Hello and welcome to All Things Angles. Specifically, in this lesson, we will be talking about naming angles as well as angle relationships and how they interact with each other. So first of all, when we are talking about an angle, we are talking about the space that takes up any room in between two rays or two lines, okay? Like this section in here, that is an angle. So what we are going to do first is talk about how we can name them. And there are three different ways we can name angles. One of them is by simply using a number in that space. So for example, I could write a 1 in here, and that would be angle 1 in here, okay? I could write a 2, that we call that angle 2, angle 3, angle 4. So one way is to write a number and identify the angle via that number, okay? Now, when we are dealing with those types of situations where we have angles all up against each other, then numbers can be very beneficial. Another option is to use letters in naming an angle. So I'm going to start with the one on the bottom here. Let's say this is A, this is B, and this is C. So there are two ways I can name with letters. One is to simply say ABC or CBA, right? Angle ABC or angle CBA. Notice that the B is in the center because we are specifically using the point where the two lines meet, the two rays meet, as the center there, and that's called the vertex, that point where the angle changes direction, okay? So the vertex has to be in the middle when I'm naming naming an angle with three letters. When I only have one angle, like this situation down here, I can also name it angle B on its own. Not angle A or C because that's not the vertex, but angle B on its own. So switching gears back to this top set of angles here, right? I have A, actually let's change it up a little bit, some different letters. Let's go with F. This middle one's going to be G, H, I, oops, why'd I write H again? Sorry, y'all. And K over here, okay? So if I want to name angle 1 with three letters, I can call it either FGK or I can call it angle KGF. Notice the G is in the middle both times. I cannot call it angle G because there are a lot of different options for angle G, right? Does everyone see there's angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4. I could also include angle 2 and 3 together. That would have G as the vertex and so on and so forth, okay? So this angle right here, we could name it with those three letters, or I could name it angle 1, okay? Now let's say that I am using angle 2 and 3 together, like I just mentioned, okay? If I did want angle 2 and 3 together. Because they are two angles kind of combined when it comes to numbers, I can't just call it angle 2 and 3. I would have to use the letters, and I need to use three letters again. So I have IGF or FGI, okay? So angle IGF or angle FGI would be ideal for that angle, okay? So at this point, what I want you to do is you are going to practice naming an angle on your paper. So get ready to do a you try. For this you try, we are going to name this top angle here, right? So we're going to name this angle right there three different ways, and you're also going to name this angle three different ways, okay? So you should have this on your paper as well, but you are naming the angles that I have highlighted in blue three different ways, okay? Make it happen. Continuing on, we are going to talk about different types of angle relationships. So we have a pair of intersecting lines, okay? Now, we are specifically talking about vertical angles when we are talking about a pair of intersecting lines, okay? Vertical angles are opposite angles, opposite meaning across from each other, that are congruent in a single pair of intersecting lines. That's an R. Congruent means equal measure, right? Just for the record. I'll talk more about that later. So, for example, we have two sets of vertical angles in this problem. One is angle 2 and angle 4. Now, notice that I just put one little mark there for each of them. That means that those are congruent to one another. They have the same measure. We have another pair of vertical angles in this problem, and that's angle 3 with angle 1. Okay? And I put 2 lines for each of those because they're congruent to each other, but they're not congruent to the original 2 and 4 because those are not vertical angles as well. Okay? So they're specifically the ones across from each other when I have a pair of intersecting lines. To be clear, if I have intersecting lines like this, the ones that are directly across from each other would look like that and like that. But this one over here, let's find a different color. This one over here, while it's across from this, those are not vertical. That does not work because they're not the intersecting lines. So they're formed by the same pair of intersecting lines, so the vertical angle would be directly across from it right there. Okay? Another type of angle relationship we have are supplementary angles. Supplementary. And these are angles with a sum of 180 degrees. Now, a sum means they add up to 180. I can use a formula to help me out there. So an angle 1 plus angle 2, or any two angles that are supplementary, equal 180 degrees, and I can add up whatever is being replaced by those two. Okay? So these angles are supplementary because they form a straight angle, or a 180 degree angle, which is just a straight line. All right? Our last example for a type of angle relationship is going to be complementary angles. Okay? Complementary, not complementary. So this is not like we are giving someone a compliment. What this means is that they are two angles or more with a sum of 90 degrees this time. So in other words, they form that right angle, that little 90-degree angle when you add them together. So in this case, let's say this is angle 1, angle 2. Angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 90 for complementary. All right, it is your turn to try to identify each relationship. So make sure when you take a look at this, you look at this first one up here, letter A, the angle between the relationship between these two angles. And in letter B, or number 2, you are going to identify the relationship between those two angles. And in letter C, number 3, you are going to identify the angle relationship between angle 1 and angle 2 on your paper right now. Make it happen.